Does excellent, like the whole team. He's very humble, he's very physical, he has the ability to score and to...
7 years ago, a Premier League academy looked at this kid and decided he wasn't good enough to even sit on the bench. Manchester City signed him, buried him in their academy system, and never once gave him a single minute for the first team. Most players never recover from that kind of rejection. This one just signed a deal that makes him the most expensive footballer Britain has ever produced, £117 million. That's the fee Chelsea just handed over for one player. Not for Mbappe, not for Haaland. For a young man from the West Midlands who, only 5 years ago, was turning out in League One in front of crowds you could count in the thousands. His name is Morgan Rogers, and today he carries the title of Britain's most expensive footballer ever. The strangest part of all this, barely anyone saw it coming. This is nothing close to a standard transfer story. It's the tale of a kid pushed aside by the system, swallowed up inside Manchester City's academy machine, forced to claw his way through the lower divisions of English football, and who somehow emerged on the other side as one of the most well-rounded attacking players on the planet. In the summer of 2026, Chelsea outmaneuvered Arsenal for his signature and paid Aston Villa a fee that broke British transfer records. Rogers put pen to paper on a 6-year deal and stepped into Stamford Bridge as the club's central attacking figure. To understand why any club would part with that kind of money, you need to rewind to where this all began. He was born in Hale Sowen, a small town in the West Midlands, back in 2002, into a household completely obsessed with the sport. Kickabouts in the back garden with his father, games with his older brothers.
Playing for the fun of it, really. My dad's obviously massive in that. Obviously having older brothers as well, playing with and stuff. And my mum as well. My mum's big in football, like our family just loves the game. So.
From the start, he always wanted the ball at his feet, always wanted to be the one running past everybody else. West Brom's academy picked him up at just 8 years old. As he progressed through the youth ranks, a clear pattern emerged: goals, physical power, and a level of confidence with the ball that simply can't be coached. England's youth setup took notice too, and Rogers kept scoring consistently all the way from the under-15s through to the under-17s. Then came February 2019. Rogers, 16 at the time, spent his morning sitting in a classroom like any other school kid. That same afternoon, he was training alongside West Brom's senior squad. Within that same week, he made his first team debut off the bench in an FA Cup tie against Brighton. School in the morning, professional football days later. English football had officially taken notice. One club in particular was paying close attention. In summer 2019, Manchester City handed over roughly £4 million for a teenager barely out of secondary school. On paper, it read like a dream transfer. Elite facilities, elite coaching, one of the biggest clubs on earth. But football doesn't play out on paper. And here's where his story takes a sharp turn. Rogers has openly admitted just how much he struggled during his time in Manchester.
Away from there was very exciting. It was daunting. I'd never moved away from home and stuff, but exciting at the same time. Yeah, it was a proud moment.
At West Brom, he'd been the standout kid everyone pointed to. At City, every single academy player around him carried that same label. Signings from Barcelona, from Atletico Madrid, full internationals across the board. For the first time in his career, Rogers wasn't the best player in the room, and it threw him off completely. He never once featured for City's first team. So he went in search of real minutes. In January 2021, City sent him out on loan to League One side Lincoln City. No academy comforts, no manicured pitches, just genuine competitive football, real pressure, real supporters. Rogers thrived in it. Within weeks, he'd scored his first senior goal, a header that won a match away at Portsmouth, and by season's end, he'd bagged 6 goals in 21 league appearances. For an 18-year-old operating in a physical, demanding league, that was a genuinely strong return. Still, the journey wasn't smooth from there. The following season, a step up to the championship with Bournemouth proved difficult. He rarely started, struggling to settle into any consistent rhythm, and finished with just 14 appearances and a single goal. Rogers has since admitted that despite always trusting his own ability, doubt started creeping in. When performances aren't showing up week after week, it's hard not to start questioning whether your potential will ever actually be realized. Another loan followed the year after, this time at Blackpool, and another harsh lesson. A club stuck in a relegation battle. Defeat after defeat. Rogers made 16 appearances and scored only once. But that single goal spoke volumes. On the final day of the season, away at Norwich, he produced a composed, clever finish over the goalkeeper to win the match. A team already staring at relegation, and he still delivered under pressure. Those difficult years spent in the lower leagues weren't wasted. They built the player he'd eventually become. By summer 2023, his Manchester City contract had run out, and Middlesbrough signed him permanently for around £1 million. Just £1 million. Worth remembering because it might go down as one of the shrewdest signings of the decade. At Middlesbrough, everything finally came together. He had a defined role, freedom to attack, and a manager who backed him fully. And that season, in the League Cup, he scored 5 goals and finished as the competition's top scorer, dragging Middlesbrough all the way to the semi-finals against the odds. Premier League scouts started showing up in numbers, and one club moved quicker than the rest. In February 2024, Aston Villa paid an initial £8 million, with the fee potentially climbing to double that. Unai Emery had seen enough and made him a priority signing. For Rodgers, it was everything he'd once dreamed of. Premier League football, European nights, all suddenly real. He debuted in the Premier League within days and netted his first Villa goal a couple of months later. His confidence took off from there. The 2024-25 season was when it all clicked into place. Rodgers didn't just belong in that Villa side, he became central to it. Then came the performance that changed public perception of him entirely. The Champions League tie against Celtic, where Rodgers scored a hat trick, 2 of the goals coming inside the opening 5 minutes. He backed it up with further crucial goals in that competition, including one against eventual champions PSG in the quarterfinal. By the season's close, his numbers read 14 goals, 15 assists, and a PFA Young Player of the Year award. That November, Villa rewarded him with a new contract running through to 2031. So who exactly is Morgan Rodgers on the pitch, and what makes a club willing to pay this kind of money? At 6'2", he's a genuine physical presence, shrugging off defenders and shielding possession like a target man. Yet his touch remains as smooth as any classic number 10's. He can go past a fullback one-on-one, thread a perfectly weighted through ball, or unleash a shot from 25 yards out. And crucially, the part often overlooked, he puts in the work defensively too, tracking back and pressing relentlessly, sparking a huge share of Villa's counterattacks by forcing turnovers deep in opposition territory. Against West Ham, he scored twice, including an outrageous 25-yard winner that flipped a losing scoreline into a 3-2 victory. Jamie Carragher summed up what everyone was already thinking that night. This player is genuinely special. Emery's trust in him ran so deep that he was rarely rested. Rodgers, alongside Emiliano Martinez and Yuri Tielemans, was one of only 3 Villa players to surpass 2,500 league minutes that season. The only matches he missed all year came through suspension. England took notice as well. He received his first senior call-up in November 2024, made his debut that same month, and scored his first international goal against Wales a year later. Comparisons to Jude Bellingham followed him everywhere. The two grew up minutes apart in the West Midlands, and even crossed paths as youngsters. But their journeys couldn't look more different. Bellingham rocketed straight to the very top. Rodgers took the scenic route through League One pitches and championship relegation scraps. Some players are ready for the elite level immediately, others need time to develop and toughen up first. Those years grinding through the EFL made him sharper, stronger, and far more complete. This past summer, both wore the 3 Lions at the World Cup, where England came heartbreakingly close before losing to Argentina in the semi-final, which brings everything full circle. That £117 million switch to Chelsea, a new British record, more than any club has ever paid for Bellingham, more than any club has ever paid for any English footballer. Arsenal fought hard for his signature, but Rodgers ultimately picked Stamford Bridge. And in one of the more amusing footnotes to this story, Middlesbrough, the club that once bought him for a single million, pocketed a sell-on clause worth roughly £20 million from this deal. From a schoolboy substitute appearance, to being cast aside at Manchester City, to grinding through League One, all the way to a British transfer record in the space of just 7 years. Morgan Rodgers stands as proof that the path to the top rarely runs in a straight line. Sometimes it's the players who struggle, who get overlooked, who have to scrap for every single minute on the pitch, who end up becoming the toughest of them all. The real question now is whether he can do for Chelsea what he did for Villa. So tell me this, Does a player who once couldn't get a single minute at Manchester City end up carrying Chelsea to a title? Or does this £117 million gamble come back to haunt them? Drop your prediction below, subscribe if you want to be here the day we find out, and I'll see you in the next one.